I'm Pascale with Art of Adventure. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm at Green Spring Park and I'm here because it's one of those off the beaten path springs. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. The public springs you and I can go to that are off the beaten path. Here are my top 5. Number 5, Green Spring. Green Spring is located in Green Springs Park in Volusia County, just outside of Orlando. The park itself is really nice. There's a paved path just off the parking lot and some well-maintained signs that lead you straight to Green Spring. It's a very easy 5-minute walk from the parking lot. On first approach, you'll notice a slight sulfur smell, but nothing overwhelming. The spring has no swimming signs posted, but with 2 huge trees stretched over the alluring green water of the spring, the attraction is just too much for the locals. I found these guys having a blast. First they were just jumping, but then they really started showing me a thing or two. Flipping into the water, doing doubles. It was pretty amazing actually. Sick! Okay, here are my pro tips for Green Spring. It's a free park. Just look up Green Springs Park in your GPS. It's close to Orlando. Just enough off the beaten path so you're certain to get out of the crowds. Look, this is an absolute jewel in Florida. You want to see it. But unless you also want to hike and bike the park, it's not somewhere you'll probably spend more than an hour or 2. Number 4, Rum Island. Don't you just love that name? Rum Island Spring is located inside Rum Island Park. It's a county park in Columbia County. While everyone else is scrambling to see some of the well-known springs in the area, you are certain to have a much, much smaller crowd at this hidden gem. You can find this crystal clear swimming hole just feet off the Santa Fe River. The water at the spring vent is perfect for swimming and snorkeling. It's not too much bigger than a typical swimming pool. I got lucky and caught it solo. Rum Island Spring is just as beautiful from above. It looks like a diamond just sparkling away. The newly renovated walkway and ramp make it very easy for anyone to access the water. Here are some of my pro tips for Rum Island. The park is open from 8 a.m. to sundown. It costs $5 per car. There are military discounts. This is another one on the honor system. Pack a picnic. This park is in the middle of nowhere. There are some picnic tables you can snag if you're early enough. Bring your mask and snorkel. There is also a boat ramp at the park, so it's easy to put your kayak or stand-up paddle in the Santa Fe right there at the park. I guess you need to bring your own rum though. Number 3, FERN Hammock. This spring will also go on my list of most photogenic springs in the state of Florida. FERN Hammock is hidden inside the Juniper Springs recreational area. So really, you get to see 2 springs at the one park in the Ocala National Forest. If you park in the main parking lot, the walkway will pull you towards Juniper Spring. Juniper is a beautiful swimming hole. Crystal blue water just below the surface. This historic mill house is used to produce green energy on the property. FERN Hammock is about a half-mile hike from Juniper Springs. On another path. I would like to say the signage is easy, but I'll admit I did get lost. Too many forks in the road, I guess. Truthfully, if you stick to the trail that's on the right side of Juniper, you should find it easily. It was worth getting lost, though, to set my eyes on this gem. The grass and the sand boils from the spring create these one-of-a-kind circular pools of aqua blue. You can't swim or even go too close to the shoreline at this spring. It is environmentally sensitive. And it's important everyone follow the rules here. We have to work together to keep FERN Hammock pristine and photogenic. If you really need to get in the water to beat the heat, just walk back to Juniper and go for it. Here are my pro tips for FERN Hammock. Because it's in the Juniper Springs recreational area, it is likely to reach capacity daily. The park opens at 8 a.m. and you should try to be in line by then. Weekdays will be easier than weekends to beat the crowds. Juniper is one of the pricier parks. On the weekdays, it's $7 per person, and it's $10 on the weekend. It's another $10 if you want to launch a kayak. But if you drive down the road a few miles and put your kayak in at Juniper Wayside, it's free. Number 2, Mud Springs. Mud Springs ranks so high on my list for a couple of reasons. 1, there is a really good chance you'll catch it solo. I was recently there on a holiday, and while there were a few people who walked through the property, I was the only one in the water for hours. It's also the closest spring to Northeast Florida, only about an hour and 15 minutes from Jacksonville. Mud Springs sits just off the St. Johns River in the Willaca State Forest. The pool itself is about 85 feet by 65 feet, so it's not very big or very deep. I think if it was crowded, it would definitely lose a bit of its charm. Mud Springs is known for its sand boils. Each one pops to the surface like a tiny explosion. Do me a favor though, please don't go stomping over or push things below the surface here. It really can do long-lasting harm to the spring. And we need this gem to stay pristine and beautiful. How else will you get moments like these? Here are a few pro tips for Mud Springs. Bring your tennis shoes. While the parking lot sits just off County Road 309, you will have to hike a trail 1.5 miles each way to get to the spring. It's an easy trail, perhaps a little rooty at times, but trust me, it's worth it. I also recommend bringing a dolly or some sort of wagon so you can wheel your items to the spring head area where there are picnic tables and bathrooms. There is a pay station at the trailhead. It costs $2 per person. You can follow the prompts on the sign to pay online if you don't want to leave cash in the envelope. And bring your mask and snorkel. Here it is, guys. Number 1, Little River Spring. I know. Some of you will say Little River in Suwannee County is not exactly a secret. I hear you. But I've lived in Florida my whole life and only recently found it. There are so many reasons this ranks number 1 on my list of hidden gems. Let's start with the sheer beauty. Oh my goodness. The spring head sits just feet off the boardwalk that surrounds one side of the park. In just seconds, you can be in the water and exploring what I consider the best part of the park. The views underwater are spectacular. Rock formations surround the spring vent. Scuba divers from all over travel to Little River to experience the cave. I only had a mask and snorkel, so I was only able to peek my head into the entrance to get a little video. Back above water, you can see a stone walkway lines one half of the spring head. Families can enjoy a small beach on the other side. Make sure you're mindful of the tides if you plan to visit and want to set up shop on the beach. I've also been here when it's been extremely high tide and there was no beach at all. High tides and storms also bring in the tannic water of the Suwannee River. That's what's known as a brownout. On this day, the tannic water was just feet from the spring vent, making for an interesting display of colors below the surface. Whether it's crystal clear or a bit tannic, you can typically find families with smaller kids at Little River. It's not very deep, and the design of the park makes it pretty easy to keep an eye on the little ones. Okay, here are some pro tips for Little River Springs. It's a free county park, so it gets busy on the weekends. If you stick to a weekday visit, you should have a fairly empty spring to play and swim. Bring your mask and snorkel. For its size, there is plenty to see below the surface. There are spots along the lawn and beach to set up your camp for the day. Pack a picnic. This park is in the middle of nowhere. And please pack out what you pack in. The trash cans tend to get full, and it seems people will just leave their trash anywhere. I pick up what I can at every park I visit. I refuse to end on a trash note, so here are a few reminders why Little River Springs tops my list of hidden gems. It is small, but it packs a lot of punch. You will be blown away at how beautiful this spring is. And it's just as pretty below the surface as it is above. It's free. I mean, there are not a lot of places that are 100% free to take your whole family. and it's shallow. It's great for kids. As always, you'll want to call ahead and make sure the park you're interested in is open and the amenities you want are available. After all, it is Florida and we do have storms. I added helpful links for all these springs in the description below.
Did I forget one of your favorite off the beaten path public springs? I'm not trying to expose any private springs. Let me know in the comments below. Remember, experience is all about the art of adventure. Go get it.